In 2004, a record executive sat across from one of the biggest rappers on the planet and offered him a straightforward endorsement deal for a small vitamin-flavored water brand almost nobody had heard of. Show up, put your name on it, take the check. And 50 Cent said no. He didn't want the check. He wanted a piece of the company. 3 years later, Coca-Cola bought that company for a reported $4.1 billion, and 50 Cent reportedly walked away with somewhere north of $100 million. More, by many accounts, than he had made from an entire career of platinum records. It is one of the smartest financial decisions any entertainer has ever made. And 8 years after that, he filed for bankruptcy. That's what makes this story worth your time. Because the ownership lesson, take equity, not cash, is one you've heard 100 times, and 50 Cent is the single best example of it anyone can point to. He proved it works, at a scale almost nobody has matched. And then he went broke anyway. Not because the deal failed, the deal was spectacular. He went broke for a reason that has nothing to do with what he owned, and everything to do with what he was exposed to. By the end of this video, you'll understand the half of the ownership lesson that nobody teaches, and why getting the first half right isn't enough on its own. Let's start with where the money came from, because his music career alone was enormous. Curtis James Jackson III released his major label debut, Get Rich or Die Tryin', in 2003, and it didn't just succeed, it detonated. It reportedly sold in the neighborhood of 870,000 copies in its first week, one of the biggest debut weeks in rap history. It went on to sell in the many millions worldwide. Across his career, he has reportedly sold more than 30 million records globally. And here's what matters more than the sales figures. He didn't just record for a label, he ran one. G-Unit Records gave him a stake in the artists he signed and the records they sold, rather than a cut of his own work alone. Then came the touring, the merchandise, the film and endorsement work. By the mid-2000s, 50 Cent was one of the highest-earning musicians in the world. That would already be a substantial fortune by any standard, but everything we've just talked about, the record sales, the label, the tours, the whole music career, was reportedly out-earned by a single decision he made about a soft drink. Here's how it happened. In 2004, a company called Glacio was making a product called vitamin water and looking for a name to attach to it. The standard arrangement in that era was simple. It was how essentially every celebrity endorsement worked. The brand paid the star a flat fee. The star lent their face for a defined period, and when the campaign ended, the relationship ended. Guaranteed money, no risk, no upside. 50 Cent turned it down. Instead, he reportedly negotiated for an ownership stake in the company itself, a minority position, reportedly in the range of 10%, in exchange for promoting the brand and helping develop a flavor. Understand what that trade actually was. He gave up guaranteed cash today for a share of something that might be worth nothing. If Glacio had failed, he would have worked for free. That's a real risk, and it's exactly why most people take the check. But if the company grew, he wouldn't be paid once. He'd own a piece of everything it eventually became. In 2007, Coca-Cola acquired Glacio for a reported $4.1 billion. Reports on 50 Cent's share vary, but his pre-tax take is widely reported at somewhere around $100 million or more. One decision, one negotiation, more money than an entire career of hit records. So how does a man who just executed the single best financial decision in modern entertainment end up in bankruptcy court 8 years later? Not because he lost the money in a bad investment, and not because he stopped earning. The answer is exposure. While the vitamin water stake was making him a fortune, 50 Cent was also building and backing a range of other ventures: consumer products, a headphone company, various business partnerships. And business ventures don't only carry the risk of failing, they carry the risk of litigation. In one long-running dispute with a headphone manufacturer over a business partnership, an arbitrator reportedly awarded a judgment against him of roughly $17 million. A separate legal judgment followed, reportedly adding several million more. Suddenly, a man with substantial assets faced court-ordered obligations arriving on someone else's timeline all at once. And this is what's worth understanding, because it has nothing to do with spending. Most of what 50 Cent owned was tied up in businesses, stakes, and property. Valuable, but not liquid. You cannot hand a court a percentage of a company. When large judgments land at the same moment and the cash isn't there, the size of your net worth on paper stops mattering. What matters is what you can actually reach. In July of 2015, Curtis Jackson filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The filing reportedly listed debts in the range of $32.5 million against assets in a broadly similar range. And the public reaction was, predictably, brutal. The man who had famously titled his debut album Get Rich or Die Tryin' was, according to the headlines, broke. It's worth being precise about what actually happened, because the word bankruptcy does a lot of work in people's imaginations. Chapter 11 is a reorganization, not a liquidation. It halts collection, it freezes the judgments in place, and it forces every creditor into a single structured process instead of a race. It is a legal tool, and he used it as one. But it would be far too generous to call the whole thing a masterstroke, because the situation that made it necessary was real. Enormous obligations coming due against assets he couldn't convert to cash fast enough. The greatest equity deal in entertainment history did not protect him from that. It couldn't. It wasn't built to. And then he did something that reframes the entire story. He went back to work. And specifically, he went back to work on ownership. In 2014, he had co-created a television series called Power for the network Stars, and rather than just acting in it or taking a fee, he built a production company around it. That show became a franchise, multiple spin-off series, years of programming, a reported overall deal with the network worth a substantial 9-figure sum. He launched a cognac brand. He had already reportedly sold a stake in a vodka brand. In 2017, he emerged from bankruptcy, having agreed to repay a reported $23 million over 5 years. And he reportedly paid it off well ahead of that schedule. Today, his net worth is reported in the hundreds of millions. Notice what he did not do. He didn't chase another hit record to dig out. He rebuilt exactly the way he built the first time, by owning it, not renting his name to it. So here's what to take away, and it has two sides that have to travel together. The first half is the one everyone knows, and 50 Cent proved it better than anyone. One ownership deal can out-earn an entire career. He made more from a stake in a beverage company than from 30 million records sold. When you're offered a check or a piece, the check is easier to understand. The piece is almost always worth more, because a check pays you once, and ownership pays you for as long as the thing keeps growing. That principle is real, and it made him rich. But here's the half almost nobody teaches. Ownership is not armor. Everything 50 Cent owned was working exactly as intended when the judgments arrived. And it didn't matter, because he couldn't turn any of it into cash on a court schedule. Wealth on paper and money you can actually reach are two different things. And the gap between them is where solvent people get into trouble. So take the stake instead of the check. That part is right. Just don't assume that owning good things exempts you from watching what you're exposed to or from keeping something liquid enough to survive a bad month you didn't see coming. If this changed how you think about getting paid versus owning a piece, that's exactly what this channel is for. The real stories behind the money and the lessons hiding inside them. Subscribe and stick around, because the next story is about a fortune that looked untouchable right up until the moment it wasn't. You won't want to miss it.